So Battlefield 6's launch weekend has been one hell of a rollercoaster ride, in a lot of ways, quite frankly. And while it hasn't been complete smooth sailing, in more ways than one, I'd like to posit that Battlefield 6 has honestly done what many of us would have considered impossible up until recently, especially given we're coming off the back of Battlefield 2042. The amount of a 180 that this represents is just straight up diabolical, and it really feels like that to me. Battlefield 6 has hit a good old reset button on the franchise, and now it feels like a genuine, high quality, relatively polished competitor in the first person shooter space again, and the results of the weekend, they don't lie. By the way, if you guys end up enjoying the yap and the gameplay, be sure to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. I've got some really cool Battlefield 6 content coming to you guys very soon, so it'd be great to have you guys a part of the community here as well. But Battlefield 6 has launched to a peak concurrent player count of 647,000 players on Steam, with the second day of the game landing a peak concurrent player count of 639,000 players. And just to be clear, that does not include console players or the EA app, so the real number is likely 2 to 3 times fold. Just to give you guys an idea of how huge that actually is, this makes Battlefield 6 the most played, full-priced AAA FPS game by a measure of concurrent player count on Steam of all time. It also puts it in the range of the top 3 multiplayer first-person shooter games on Steam of all time, ranking up there with PUBG and Counter-Strike, and in my opinion, most importantly, it absolutely pulverizes Call of Duty's recorded peak concurrent player count on Steam, which sits at 491,000 players, and that was with the relaunch of Warzone 2.0. Now, just to be clear, I don't make that final point as a means to blindly shit on COD or to insinuate that Battlefield is better. Personally, if you prefer COD, then that is perfectly fine. I've spent my entire gaming life playing both and appreciating both for what they are, even though I personally prefer what Battlefield does when it's done right. But no, I make the point because it's a matter of fact that Call of Duty has historically always outsold Battlefield games. It's almost just, dare I say, the natural order of things. Call of Duty has a mass appeal that has historically been out of reach for a Battlefield game, and you know what? That's okay. Battlefield does its thing, Call of Duty does its thing, and they both coexist in a sea of, varying interest among gamers. But Battlefield achieving what it has done this weekend and hitting the kind of numbers that it has, I think represents a bit of a paradigm shift in the community, the industry, and just maybe in the games that we're going to see in the future here. We are now living in a world where, for the first time ever, I think we may just see Battlefield outsell Call of Duty in a year where they actually release together. That can and will have downstream impacts on the industry that I think we as gamers have been really hoping to see for quite some time now. And we're already seeing that in action here with the most recent announcements that Call of Duty have been making. Already, we've had the announcement from COD that they're planning on cancelling the crossover or the carryover of skins and content from the previous games to the new one to avoid, old stylistic choices blurring and, the visual style of the game being somewhat tainted by wacky skins. And we've also just recently seen the COD developers announce that skill-based matchmaking will be taking a backseat to a more traditional matchmaker that one would expect from, a yesteryear of first-person shooter games, one that relies less on skill balancing. That second one right there is an issue that's been plaguing the Call of Duty community for the last 8-ish years and is one of the reasons that I've stopped playing COD as of late. And now that COD is feeling the squeeze from a genuine competitor on the market, only now they are folding. They are folding to the whim of the community, they're seeing how the community is reacting to a competitor existing, and they are being forced to change. This is why competition is incredible for us. It means that not only do our favorite games get better, but so do other games that we may not enjoy as much personally. And that means that not only are our fellow gaming brethren happier, but that it also places the onus on our favorite games to get better in response to such improvements being made on the other side of the fence. Battlefield has done what many would have considered impossible and has placed the pressure back on its competition in a way that we've not seen in nearly a decade. I genuinely believe that for the first time ever, Call of Duty is going to be outsold by Battlefield. Given the reception and the response I've seen to Black Ops 7 this year, I just don't foresee it happening. But again, that creates an incredible sense of competition, and that is incredible to see. Further to that, Battlefield has also done what I would have considered impossible in the lead up to this launch, given the history of this franchise and its previous launches. That being, it's launched relatively smoothly and relatively polished. In my first impressions video, I made a comment that this game technically, from a gameplay perspective, felt seriously polished by comparison to its predecessors in the franchise, almost to a point where it felt alien. But I wanted to hold off on making a final assessment on that front until I had some time in the launch environment where the servers were going to be a bit more stressed out. And I'm happy to report that, well, the game holds up, at least in my experience. Now, that's not to say it's perfect. Geometry launching has made its way from the beta into the final build of the game, which means you can inadvertently catapult yourself from time to time in the game, and it gets you killed. It's a bit annoying to say the least. I've also run into a fair few instances where vehicles just don't spawn on some maps and modes. I've actually made a video last night which demonstrates the kind of impact that this can have on the game, and it's a perler of a game to check out, by the way, so make sure you go watch that next if you haven't done so yet. And of course, there was the EA app issue as well, which basically denied all of you the ability to play the game for the first 8-ish hours on launch day. Now, thankfully, Battlefield Studios came to the party on that and offered 12 hours of double career and hardware XP for anyone that was affected by that problem, which I think is an awesome demonstration of goodwill to the community and makes a pretty serious issue right. However, those problems aside, we have had some Battlefield launches across the years that have been absolute dumpster fires. Game-breaking bugs, completely broken gunplay, crashes to desktop, you name it. Battlefield games have seen it all. And post-launch, after about, dare I say, 15 hours of additional gameplay, I stand by the fact that Battlefield has finally managed to break its own persona of being a buggy mess on a launch with Battlefield 6. And while I don't see that we should be necessarily praising the devs for that, because that should be the norm in game releases, it's a nice change of pace that breaks the established norm. All of this in mind and in hand, guys, I think that this is going to have industry-setting consequences. Similar to how there was the Battle Royale influence set by PUBG, the team shooter influence set by Overwatch, the extraction shooter influence set by Tarkov. Battlefield 6 is sending a message to the broader industry that gamers are really keen to return to the roots of our favorite franchises and maybe even to first-person shooter games in general. I've seen a lot of people online criticize that Battlefield 6 isn't revolutionary for what it is and that people are glazing it. You know, the fact that it's really just more of the same that we've expected from Battlefield, and it doesn't really try anything new or groundbreaking. It just improves on the best things from previous Battlefield games and plays it safe. But I think that that in of itself is actually the point and the lesson to be learned here, guys. Sometimes just sticking to what your franchise is known for and making smaller, bite-sized innovations that all collectively lead to a large impact ensures that your series stays true to itself but still feels fresh, rather than trying to make large, brand-spanking new innovations that feel alien. And of course, you got to do that at a relatively comfortable pace as well. If you release your games yearly with very little change being made between them, then yeah, you're going to see some gamer fatigue on your franchise and you're going to see people start to step away. Battlefield 6 has had a long break between its last entry in the franchise. It's also had a long break between arguably a good entry in its franchise. But when you take that break and return later on by making, again, calculated improvements that stay true to your identity, the gamer fatigue wears out. People are keen to try a new game in your franchise and you can still have incredible results. Battlefield has sent a very strong message to the FPS industry here that I think we're going to feel the impact of for a long time now. And I think that we are going to be eating very good as gamers for a long time as a result, even if you aren't a Battlefield player explicitly. Even if you aren't explicitly a Battlefield guy, I think your games and your franchises are going to see the success of Battlefield and they're going to want a slice of that action too. And the only way they're going to achieve that is by simply getting better. But folks, with all of that said, that is going to wrap up today's video. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I appreciate you all making it this far and this long into the video. If you enjoyed the app, if you enjoyed the gameplay, so on and so forth, be sure to like the video and get subscribed for all future Battlefield 6 content. I've got some really cool stuff on the way, guys, and I trust that you're not going to want to miss out on it. Further to that, be sure to swing by my Twitch and my Discord, both linked in the description down below. It would be a pleasure to have you guys a part of the community there too. But until the next video, guys, which will be tomorrow, by the way, peace out, have a good one, and I'll see you all next time. Take care, guys.